Since my last video on Friday, we have moved a little bit further forward with crypto, especially Bitcoin. And the sentiment is somewhat flipping a little bit. And people are already screaming the bull market is back. But a strong bounce, couple of days of green doesn't mean that a genuine bull market is back. Remember that, which is what we need to look at today in a bit more detail. Because yes, there's evidence of both sides of the story here. I'm not denying that. But the point is, are we going to be prepared for the bull market or are we going to be prepared for a trap? Don't want it to go the opposite way, do we? Let's have a little look. What has changed since the Friday video? We'll talk about that in a bit more detail. But firstly, fear and greed. We're down a little bit since last week, as you can imagine, because Wednesday, Thursday, we started to move a little bit. And then it got very, very interesting from that point. This hasn't moved much since because of that, for obvious reasons. It has just hit a wall a little bit. But again, going to the 6-hour time frame, for example here, yes, we had that big massive shoot on Wednesday, and then we kind of pulled back a little bit on the Saturday, and then we went a bit higher. But realistically, over the last day or so, if we go to the 15-minute time frame, it has been a bit sluggish. Not a lot has happened, which isn't a bad thing. But we'll go a little bit deeper with this because, again, we can argue many different things here. The world of the alt season vibe hasn't really took off massively. Dominance of Bitcoin has risen slightly. Natural rotation is kind of here on the 7-day chart because it has been 7 days since that pump. Yes, it will be a little bit delayed, but ultimately, Bitcoin still has outperformed most altcoins, apart from the odd few. In the world of the ETFs, it's been brilliant. I mean, you can't really deny what the results have been over the last few days. It needs to obviously sustain, and Bitcoin needs to claim on to and capture those key levels. Otherwise, it's just a bit of a whimper. So since the pump or since Friday's video, things have sustained somewhat. But for me, as much as my indicator's saying risk on here, yes, you can see that it's pretty clear on the daily time frame. It doesn't really confirm completely this is bull market territory yet. Keyword is yet. We haven't got full alignment on some things, which is fine, but we need to be careful of that. The biggest problem that we have, one strong week doesn't mean it's going to change. That's the big difference here. And that's where I think people are going to fall into that little bit of a trap here. People have been dunking on others on X, and it's been pretty mental to see what's been said. But we're only 1 week in here, one time frame, one candle essentially, right? Because altcoins have pumped a little bit, certainly the likes of, I'll give you an example, XRP has had a really good pump, for example. Ethereum has had a good, solid pump as well. Some have not. Some have been quite sluggish, but some of them have done really well. That's fine. But the reality is, and where we are right now, yes, let's look at this bit in more detail as well. Stable currency dominance has dropped a lot. That's a good sign. But we haven't really got out of the trap zone yet. So let's look at the technicals. Because you may have already pointed it out anyways on my own, analysis. Those big highs, these areas here, let me go to the weekly, hello. I know there's a big bear there, but we need to kind of get through that little green light zone here. We do. And regardless of how you think about technical analysis or what your opinion is, structure should be respected one way or another. You would want to see a higher high there. You want to see that resistance level there, which is a big one, to be broken and turn into support. Price needs to hold above that zone. That's just the reality of it. And you also need to see sustained spot demand and growing volume. We've got good institutional volume through the ETFs. You could probably argue there's a lot more people talking about futures now, but the Ethereum side of it, yes, it's starting to grow a little bit. It's good to see. But the big question, and the big situation is why I've got this big arrow. Pullbacks. They need to be bought. They need to be used to show a signal of intent and strength. Top and bottom of it. Can't go any further than that. Because yes, we can go higher. And then that level, whatever, this area from a higher point could become a level of support. But if we fail to get above that zone, this area, That's resistance, which it could be right now. We will go lower. Where do we pick up the flak? That is the ultimate question. Feel free, let me know in the comments what you think. But for me, right now, if we have rejected at that zone and we're going to pull back, where do we get demand? I know, we'll talk about it. My biggest issue that I have with a lot of things around this side of it is leverage. I know. What the ideology is of leverage, I think, for a lot of people is, fuck, I've missed it. I'll just use leverage to make up for it, right? So you'll have all kinds of people screaming buys at these sort of resistance levels, which you shouldn't do anyways. If that does drop, probably will, you're going to get a bit of a cascade going in the opposite direction. The reason why we had a big, massive jolt to the upside was due to squeezing. Big news article came out from Trump. It got people turned on. High frequency traders jumped on it. Volume increased. People got leverage. With leverage, got liquidated and stop losses were hit. Creates a chain reaction. They flip their positions. It creates that surge. Off we go. Remember, we did nothing for about 8 weeks, pretty much. So there was excitement. The other way around is more brutal because you may well see, look what happened here, for example. We had a bit of a run. We rejected, cascade. We don't want to have a repeat performance of that. I'm a bull. I hold Bitcoin. I hold a decent chunk of Bitcoin. I want this to go to the fucking moon, right? People just think I'm bearish, but I'm realistic. We cannot look at this and go, yeah, bull market, because it doesn't add up. It doesn't look like a bull market. And what I showcased in the previous video was in the past, and you can see it here, mess, fuck all, bang, right? That's fine. That's absolutely fine to see that. But the situation is very, very clear. We went up, we broke levels of resistance here, but we also, from here down to this wick, we did a 25% correction. We did a number of other ones here. So when I zoom out or even look at this chart and I think to myself, have I missed the boat? No. I saw much higher. You'll know this on my website and page. I've got it all written down for people. You will see that, well, actually, if we do go back into the $70,000 level, that's still pretty good value, realistically, if you think in the longer term, if you are, as I say, a Bitcoin bull. But yes, we could talk about the market cycles. Now, my website, there's a link below. I'm building it. It's open. Part of it are open, some are not. I'm adding a lot more stuff with new API tools, and I will just create some free stuff and some members only stuff as well. But I will be doing more on it later on today when I get a bit of time. As I say, when we talk about the value zone of this, we are still in technically accumulation and still cheap, realistically, for Bitcoin. I still think there's situations where we could get lower than $70,000 if we get a honking correction. So be mindful of that. Other than that, other things aren't looking terrible in terms of where we are right now. Distance from, all-time high is still pretty all right. We're still quite a way away, from halving and stuff. So there's definitely situations where we can look at this and think, you know what? It's not a bad time to be in the market when the price looks favorable. But I want to give you another opinion here. What if we go lower? And I know we're talking, is this a bull market and stuff like that, but there's a lot of people, and I'm going to say this because I've had experience of this. I remember in the last cycle, it was kind of like this at one point, right? And again, we'll go back to it. It's important to note this because I remember when we were at $30,000 last cycle, right? And I remember people were shouting, "Oh my God, it's like, it's over." Thing is, right, when we talk about like these levels here, $30,000 was a massive level. We went down to $30,000, we pulled back up and we jumped in. People were looking at $30,000 level as the ultimate buy zone in and around basically these wicks here. The ultimate buy area. Generational wealth. We went from $70,000 down to $30,000. Reality was that we halved from that point. My only concern with this entire market is crypto can be brutal. Very brutal, right? We know this. It's a matter of fact. I look at this and I think to myself, nothing's really blown up yet. Could be a different market. No, I'm not discounting it. That's why I still hold Bitcoin. Because I'm still looking at the ETFs and thinking that's fucking brilliant. That's a really good way to grow our wealth over the course of time with that different type of money. But I look at this and I think that looks too easy. That's me being a really big devil's advocate here and critical of it. But as I say, the proof of all of this now comes, in my viewpoint, the pullback. So let's see what the pullback does and why or how or what it does as a reaction based off those circumstances. So yeah, be very, very interested. But as I say, in terms of me, I'll show you. Nothing has changed in what I'm doing. I need to add some more buys onto here because I've it's been a few more going through, but I'm still doing a DCA challenge here. Bit of fun. I started very, very late, as you can see, so my price isn't very good. But ultimately, things are looking okay. Well, I've got now growth forecasts and all kinds of stuff on here and all random shit, but I do need to finish this off, right? But the reality is very, very simple here. Long term, I'm not chasing green candles. I'm just buying. I've still got a load of stable currencies I can put in the market. I'm still holding a load of Bitcoin. It's fine. My plan is all going to change very, very soon. And if you do want to get access to this, jump in Patreon. You can get 50% off your first month or first year. It ends tomorrow though. But the plan is to have that website and link it all together. I have, as I say, using different API tools. They're going to be much, much better now. And I'm going to have a very, very different logic platform on it versus what I had before. So it should be a lot better. You also get exclusive content. There's a Discord as well. So feel free to just jump in and yeah, I'll build something cool. But either way, even if we look at the derivative side of this entire market and talk about what I'm going to do, it doesn't matter. It's what everyone else does sometimes, because when we talk about how, bullish and the long-term, data here is, it's changed massively since like the last, as you can see, it's all gone fucking the opposite way, which is good to see. But that might not last forever. So remember your risk, remember your reward as well in that sense. And as I say, with me, I'm going to be keeping my cash on the sidelines until we get a decent pullback. But for me, as I say, I'm keeping my altcoin exposure small and selective because we haven't got full confirmation yet. There's other sides of this market we need to look at. But right now, let's just see where we'll go with Bitcoin and Ethereum first. Because even with that, bear with me, with Ethereum, it's very hot. People are really turned on by Ethereum, which is good to see. That could be what really ignites the market elsewhere, because I think a lot of people, correct me if I'm wrong, are more interested in that side of the market than, say, Bitcoin. This could be an early stage of the bull market going, but it also could be the early stage of normal market behavior of volatility and pullback. So just be mindful of that too. You don't need to predict every bottom, every top, every candle. You don't. You just need to be understanding what market you're in and recognize, I think, the overall structure points so you don't mess up. But yeah, if you want to know more and watch the video that I did on Friday reacting to the bounce and why we bounced, watch that.